Hey everybody, Harry Owens here. I'm here to give you a lesson in direction and change, and I'm going to use the case of Wells Fargo scandal. So, preview, I'm going to give you an introduction to the case, I'm going to talk about the findings, theoretically, discuss the discussion, implication, and then recommendation, future research and review. So, Wells Fargo, if you don't know, is one of the largest financial institutions in North America. Its mission since its startup in 1852 was to serve the customers, to meet their needs and to help them succeed financially. As we will see, Wells Fargo abandoned this direction, but this was their established direction. They abandoned this in favor of cross selling, selling products to existing customers, and producing quotas for this cross selling. The fallout from this deviation from direction would cost them $2 billion in financial penalties. They would lose around 5,300 employees, substantial loss in profitability, public trust, other losses, including 400 branches nationally, were closed by 2018, only 2 years after their first sanction. Importantly, what I want to note here is the dialectic of direction and change. This is the theoretical perspective in which I would hope you all would listen and see the Wells Fargo scandal through. Within business and professional communication ethics, the good that needs promoting is survival. In the open marketplace, everyone's goal as a business is to continue to last. And the best way to do that, operating within direction and change, is having a clear direction, knowing where you're going and why you're going there. Wells Fargo had a clear idea of why it was providing the financial products and services it was providing. That was to help its customers, and it was to meet their needs. As we see in the first finding, Wells Fargo lost sight of this and then subsequently lost their direction. The company made a change from meeting the needs of the consumers to meeting their own internal needs. They set quotas on how many products and services they could cross sell to the same customer base. This quickly put an unprecedented emphasis on cross selling and made the quotas unattainable for the employees. This is where we see finding number two, a breakdown from the individual employees at the manager level, at entry level, all branch level, especially employees were faced with these unreachable quotas and they were left to themselves to decide how to meet the direction change of cross selling. And so they did so unethically in order to save their jobs. Keep in mind that as they did all of this, the most important infraction that the most important mistake they made was keeping this out of the public's eye. Wells Fargo, as we mentioned, was known as being open with the public, was known as being trusting of the public, and the public could trust them. They let their direction be decided by their commitment to the public and their financial success. They forewent the public testing with this emphasis on cross selling. They signed customers up for products and services they had no idea they were being signed up for without their knowledge and consent. They moved completely secretly. And as Arnett et al. Lays out here, one of the clearest forms of being unethical is the decision for a business to change direction without a clear articulation or reasoning why to the public. This was Wells Fargo. So, comparing or combining each finding with a discussion point, theoretically, we saw that whatever the pressures may be, whether it be economical, whether it be competitor wise, whatever the factors were that went into Wells Fargo losing its direction, they gave in to the demands and the pressures and they changed their direction from one of being committed to the public to one of breaking the public's trust. They lost their way and they became unethical. On their way to becoming unethical and losing the public's trust, they let their organization and the responsibility of keeping them in the right direction or keeping them committed to direction and change, they let the individuals decide. They let the individuals be responsible in leading the company and other employees and the company body as a whole into an unethical position. As Arnett et al. Lays out, this is unethical. This is a decommittal from direction and change. The responsibility for remaining ethical should never be put in a person or a group of individuals, but in the public. And as we see with finding number three, theoretically, with direction and change, this was an infraction as well. This was the acceptance of a position of unethical for Wells Fargo. They completely changed their direction, and they did so when they changed to cross-selling instead of being committed to the company, letting individuals take over and being fraudulent. They did this outside of the public's eye. As noted and talked about by Arnett et al., it is the organization's job to keep the public informed so that they can never forego public testing and be in line with direction and change. Combining each finding with a takeaway or with a discussion theoretical point to have a takeaway. We saw with the first one, they gave into demands and pressures of the time. And we see from the implication of this, if it's not addressed, this will be the first step or one of the first steps into negative developments in the future and becoming unethical. With takeaway two, if an individual or group of people within an organization decide to stray away from a clearly defined direction, they have to be addressed. Implication, if they're not addressed, if they're not removed, especially in a timely manner, business can suffer the same fate as Wells Fargo. And takeaway three, being open and honest with the public. An organization should never change its direction without being honest and upfront with the public. Wells Fargo, of course, did not do this from the time they decided to commit to cross-selling to the time that they let their employees and let their organization slip into fraudulent activity. Implication-wise, we see that this led to substantial loss. Depending on the severity, this could have took them out of business. But as we see in this side, they were a Fortune 500 company. But I think it's important to note that even a Fortune 500 company, if they lose their commitment to direction and change, their business and professional communication ethics, if they lose sight of this, then they also can suffer substantial loss. This is important for all businesses within the marketplace. Wells Fargo had a historic direction, and they were successful, one of the largest in North America, and they lost that commitment, and then they lost substantially within the marketplace. Remember that a commitment to direction and change, noted by Arnett et al., reminds us that survival is a result of a strong direction. Wells Fargo lost its strong direction, and when they changed, it didn't do so publicly. As a company who previously committed to the public, this is where their downfall was cemented. Arnett reminds us, as you can see below, that a clear commitment to direction and change allows for creative responses to the ever-changing market. You don't have to get outside of direction and change to be creative and engage creatively and be innovative and stay within the market or stay at the top of the market. Wells Fargo lost sight of that. So in retrospect, my recommendation would have been for Wells Fargo to lean deeper into its established direction and its identity, which had proven to be a long-standing formula for success. They should have been open and honest with their shift to cross-selling, and they should have rebranded themselves in the public eye as an all-inclusive holistic bank, which is more or less exactly what they are in today's market as they try to rebrand themselves, which I found and proven through future research. Because this happened in 2016, I was able to see that research had been done in the years after, and Anderson et al. Was a research group who found that Wells Fargo used its historical origins, its history, and its identity before the scandal to survive and reinvent itself. This is interesting to me because at the end of my research and at the end of Anderson et al.'s research, we both came to the conclusion that a commitment to who you truly are as a business, and especially what has been proven by public testing, is the best way to go. Even after a scandal, Wells Fargo was able to lean back on who it used to be in its old commitments to find a new renewal within the market. And so I think future research should look for a correlation there, not only with Wells Fargo, but other organizations, to see if there's a correlation between the moment a business changes its long-standing direction and how quickly it becomes unethical. Either way, in the end, Wells Fargo, the scandal, it serves as a cautionary tale of what happens when a business loses sight of direction and change and its commitment to direction and change in the ethics of business and professional communication. As I've seen in my own professional experience, as a customer at the time of the scandal of Wells Fargo, and as my research has shown me, all businesses should choose to tell the truth early, face their public testing early, in favor of lying or concealing their decision. Changing your direction outside of the public eye will not protect you from public testing, and if you public test at a later date and you fail, the consequences can be severe. It could even mean the end of your existence as a business. Thank you.